As Alan ventured into the woods to hunt, Maria took charge of setting up their campsite. She knelt on the ground and placed her palms on the earth. With a surge of energy, plants sprouted around her, forming a beautiful tent made of wood and flowers. As she put the finishing touches on their new shelter, she couldn't shake the feeling that someone or something was watching her. Suddenly, a rustling sound from the nearby trees caught her attention, and she tensed up, ready for whatever might come. "Alan, is that you?" Maria called out, her voice shaking with fear. But there was no response. Her heart raced as she imagined a monster or even a knight lurking in the darkness, searching for them. Without a second thought, she turned and bolted, her mind racing with thoughts of how they could defend themselves if they were indeed under attack. Every snap of a twig behind her made her jump, and every rustle of the leaves sent shivers down her spine. As Maria walked through the woods, she couldn't shake the feeling that they were out there. She scanned the area but couldn't see anyone. "Alan, where are you?" she called out, hoping her brother would hear her. But there was still no response, and Maria was left alone with her fear and uncertainty. She took a deep breath and pressed on, determined to find her brother and ensure their safety. Something seemed to be guiding her as Maria sensed Alan's increasing heartbeat. "Alan?" she called out, pausing to see if he would respond. Suddenly she heard him shout, "Get off of me!" "Alan, wait up!" she called after him, fearing someone would get to her brother. "Alan!" she called again, her voice rising, but all fell silent as Maria looked around. Maria's heart raced as she ran ahead, calling her brother's name. Suddenly she heard a blood-curdling scream. "Alan!" Maria shouted as she sprinted, her heart pounding in her chest. As she approached, she saw Alan wrestling with a large orange bear with black stripes. The bear's claws raked across Alan's chest, tearing Alan's shirt. Maria was filled with panic, unsure of what to do next. Suddenly, a figure appeared out of nowhere. She stared in shock as she realized that the figure was no ordinary human, but an elf. He stood tall, with a slender and agile build, and his long limbs seemed to stretch on forever. Maria couldn't help but feel a sense of awe and wonder at the sight of this fantastical creature who towered over Alan. The elf boy had hair that flowed like autumn leaves, which swayed gently in the breeze as he approached them. His bright green eyes sparkled with an otherworldly light, and his skin was smooth and pale, with a faint glow that seemed to emanate from within. Despite the shock of seeing an elf, Maria felt a strange sense of calm wash over her as the boy drew closer. She couldn't explain it, but something about him seemed familiar, as if she had known him in another life. She watched in amazement as he approached them with a graceful ease, seemingly unfazed by the chaos around them. As the elf boy finally stood before them, he smiled warmly, and Maria felt a wave of relief wash over her. As the glowing light from the elf boy's hand illuminated the area, Maria could see the details of his features even more clearly. His high cheekbones were accentuated by the light, and his pointed chin gave him an almost regal appearance. The elf's grey eyes were focused on the bear, and his brow furrowed in concentration as he tried to keep the animal at bay. Maria couldn't help but notice the intricate designs etched into the elf's skin, swirling patterns that seemed to glow in the dim light. The massive bear, easily quadruple the size of the elf, had matted and dirty fur, and its breath came out in ragged huffs. Its beady eyes were locked onto the elf as if trying to determine if he posed a threat. Despite the elf's efforts, the bear didn't back down, taking a few tentative steps forward, its massive claws digging into the earth below. Maria held her breath, watching the tense standoff between the elf and the bear. She wondered what kind of powers the elf possessed, and how he could possibly protect them from such a massive creature. However, the elf seemed unfazed by the bear's intimidating presence, and kept his hand emitting a steady glow, bravely facing off against it. Realizing the danger they were in, Maria knew they had to leave, and quickly. With a quick glance at the bear, she placed both hands on the ground and channeled her magic, causing 3 trees to sprout and grow rapidly into full-grown trees, creating a barrier between them and the dangerous predator. Grabbing Alan's arm, the 2 siblings scrambled to their feet and ran as fast as they could, their hearts pounding with fear as they heard the bear's angry roars behind them. They didn't stop until they were close to a mile away. Maria checked Alan's wounds, but there were no injuries. "Alan, I'm so glad you're okay. Thank you," Maria said, turning to her brother. "If it weren't for you, my brother might have died." "I could have taken him," Alan pouted, but he looked at his sister. "But thanks for saving me, CJ," the boy smiled. "Alan, and this is my sister Maria. She's the lame one," Alan laughed. As they set up camp for the night, Maria couldn't help but think about how close she had come to losing her brother. She knew they needed to work together to protect each other in this strange and dangerous world. "Listen, Alan," she said, turning to her brother. "I know we fight a lot, but we must stick together out here. It's just the two of us against the world." Alan nodded, and with that, the two siblings settled down for the night, their bond stronger than ever.